my name is Richard Purnell. I'm from the Mortgage Home and we are your buy-to-let mortgage experts. Now, in this video, I want to talk about whether you should be putting your kids on your limited company and the sort of considerations you need to think about. Now, the reason I put it on there is that we get asked this question every single week. In 2025, there'll be the most purchases ever in a limited company. 6 out of 10 purchases by landlords will be done within that limited company wrapper. So it's very pertinent, very relevant if you're thinking of setting up a limited company right now, and in particular looking at legacy, looking at tax efficiency, and looking at putting kids or indeed other people on there. So before we get into it, if you haven't done already, please just subscribe to the channel. That just means we give you a little tickle on the shoulder whenever we drop a video, and you know to jump in and you get that education right then and there when you need it most. Okay, let's get on with this particular topic. So first of all, I want to describe these limited companies because from a lender and a mortgage broker point of view, there's two general categories. You've got the SPV. If you don't know what that stands for, it's special purpose vehicle. It sounds a bit complex. It isn't. It is simply a limited company that's brand new. It's off the shelf. It's never been used. It's got no history. And all you're buying it for, the sole purpose to drop your properties in it, to maintain and manage your properties, as distinct from a trading company. Now, I know there's a number of you landlords that actually manage other people's properties for them. So the rental income might be coming into your SPV, but the properties are not. That's not an SPV as far as the lender's concerned. That is a trading limited company. You essentially, I've just described a letting agent. But what if you're an IT consultant? What if you're a plumber, electrician? It doesn't really matter. If you've got a limited company that you use for trading, I get why you might say there's a convenience factor here of using it also for holding property. It could be cheaper. You're not paying for another company being set up. You're not paying your accountant another set of charges. So totally understand why you might think keeping one trading company is the right way to go. But in general, it isn't. And why? Because most lenders, and by most, I would say about 80% of them, would decline an application if you were a trading limited company. They really want to deal with SPVs. So that's one of the main reasons why you would want to be in an SPV to start with, because you're highly likely to get declined. You're in that 20% bracket. Yes, there's a few out there, but you're really, really restricting your choice. And if you've got other issues, skeletons in the cupboard, or other niche requirements, that means that the number of lenders are going to shrink anyway. You could be left with just one or two, and that means that you're paying over the odds. It means that the deals may not be competitive. So for me, I would always to having the widest choice, and I would go to an SPV. As a rule of thumb, I would say over 95% of our landlords buy properties in an SPV rather than a trading limited company. So that gives you an idea. Now, I want to talk about directors as well, because you might be thinking of putting your kids on as a director, but this applies to other people. If you're setting up this company, you might have a business partner that's going to be a director, might be spouses that you think, well, I'll put them on as directors. Here's the first thing. Majority of lenders want no more than 4 directors on an application. And quite often, the number of directors on an application must mirror on Companies House. So if you've got 5 or 6 directors on Companies House, you're going to be instantly declined by all those lenders that say the maximum is 4. So again, you want the maximum choice. Try to stick to point. Look, if you've got a compelling reason, and this goes for this whole bit of content I'm talking you through, if you've got a compelling reason to have something a little bit different, then do talk to the team. And I'll come back to that at the end. So the other thing I would say about directors is that and it can be a tricky subject, particularly if it's a business partner, or it might be wives of, you might have a business partner and you want a spouse to go on to as a directorship. So what's the credit rating of all these directors? Because it only takes one of those directors to have a poor credit rating and you'll all get drawn into that. We'll have to potentially go to a lender that accepts adverse credit, and guess what? Now you're paying too much for your interest rate. So understanding when there's any, if I can call them skeletons in the cupboard, and do they really need to be directors? And so that conversation, really should be had before you set up that company. So all directors need to be on the application. So choose your directors wisely. The other thing is, if any of your directors are under 21 years of age, so back to the kids thing, lenders are only going to accept applications from 21-year-olds and above. So you're shooting yourself in the foot. You'll not get lending if you have any directors that are under 21 years of age. Right. There's the next thing now they look at. Lenders are also looking at shareholding. So, and it's not, when I say the split, I have to be very generic here because lenders have not all gone in the same direction. They're not quite like sheep when it comes to this particular topic. So we do have a real wide range of rules and policies when it comes to what's acceptable and what isn't. So that could work in your favor. Do bear that in mind. However, trying to simplify it for today, a lot of lenders will require that not only all directors have to be on the application, but those directors or indeed any other shareholders need to represent 80% of the overall shareholding. And by shareholding, I'm talking about the alpha shares, the ordinary voting shares. These are the shares that also mean you own a part of the company. So if you did want your kids on as shareholders, then giving them a minority of shares, less than 20%, is likely to give you a wider choice of lenders. If your kids have got more than 20%, you are significantly restricting your choice of lender to go to. So there's a bit of a line in the sand there by keeping it under the 20%. A side step, a way around it, is alphabet shares. So if you're not familiar with them, again, your accountant will talk to you all day about alphabet shares, I'm sure. That these are a different category of share. So it means it might be a B or a C share. It's a different classification. And what it means is that anyone that owns that category of share does not own a part of the company. However, they do have dividend rights. In other words, it's a mechanism for getting profit out of the company. And so that might be a way of giving shareholding to the kids, if it's particularly about profit share, if it's about legacy, if it's about slowly moving the company across from you to the next generation, then you'll need to consider alphabet shares. As an aside, there are smart companies, and I have done some content on smart companies. Please, on the Mortgage Home channel, just search under the videos for smart companies, and I've got some content on that as well. But if your kids have been given alphabet shares, usually, as a rule of thumb, lenders will ignore those. So hopefully that's been of use to you today. If you're thinking of setting up a limited company, if you're just chatting to your accountant, then please marry up the accountant advice with the broker advice. And what we want to blend there is something practical that a lender will accept. So, please just focus on marrying up the accountant's advice to the broker advice, because it's no point having the tax tail wagging the dog if indeed that means that you're going to have serious issues with getting lending and increased fees. So what I would suggest, just as a point coming back, I want to make a note of this. Once you've got your accountant's advice and you've got a note of what that might look like, then bring that to your broker, and then they can have a chat through, and they will give our two penneth on what needs to be done, and hopefully we'll get to the right answer. And if you do want to chat with the team, we've got a link below in the comment section. Free, no obligation to have a chat, and we will hopefully get you set up so that you're buying properties in the right vehicle for years and years to come.